If we pump millions of barrels every day, what's left underground? Every single day, humanity pumps nearly 100 million barrels of oil out of the earth. That's over 4 billion gallons every 24 hours. Day after day, year after year. For more than a century, cars keep driving, planes keep flying, factories never stop. So here's the question. If we've been draining the planet for over 150 years, why isn't the Earth empty yet? When most people imagine an oil field, they picture a giant underground lake, a massive pool of black liquid waiting to be pumped out. It sounds logical, but it's completely wrong. There are no underground oceans of oil. Instead, oil is trapped inside tiny pores within layers of rock. Imagine a sponge filled with water. The water isn't sitting in one giant pocket. It's spread through millions of microscopic spaces. That's what an oil reservoir actually looks like. And surprisingly, even after drilling a well, most of the oil stays trapped underground. Here's something few people realize. A typical oil well doesn't recover all its oil, not even close. In many cases, companies recover only 30 to 40% of the oil in a reservoir. The rest remains locked inside the rock. Why? Because oil doesn't simply flow like water from a bottle. As pressure drops, the remaining oil becomes harder and harder to move. Eventually, the well becomes uneconomical, not empty, just too expensive to continue. But engineers found ways to solve that problem, and that's where things become fascinating. Modern oil production isn't just drilling, it's engineering. After natural pressure declines, companies inject water deep underground. The water pushes the remaining oil toward production wells. This process is called water flooding. If that's not enough, they inject natural gas or carbon dioxide, sometimes even steam. The goal is simple: force more oil out of the rock. Some fields have been producing oil for over 70 years, simply because engineers keep finding new ways to squeeze out more. The oil wasn't magically appearing, they just became better at reaching it. But technology changed everything again. For decades, experts believed many countries were running out of oil. Then came a breakthrough: horizontal drilling. Instead of drilling straight down, companies began drilling sideways, sometimes for several kilometers. Then came hydraulic fracturing, better known as fracking. Tiny cracks are created in the rock, allowing trapped oil to escape. Suddenly, oil that had been impossible to produce became economically recoverable. Entire regions once considered worthless turned into some of the world's largest oil producers. The Earth hadn't created more oil. Humans had simply learned how to reach it. Another surprise: oil companies are still discovering new fields, deep beneath oceans, under deserts, below thick layers of salt. Some discoveries lie several kilometers beneath the seafloor. Every year, exploration teams use satellites, seismic imaging, artificial intelligence, and advanced geological models to locate deposits that were invisible just decades ago. So even while we're producing oil, we're also adding new reserves. It's like spending money while continuing to discover forgotten bank accounts. But there's one important catch. Oil doesn't really run out. People often imagine the day when the last drop of oil disappears. Reality is different. Long before that happens, oil becomes too difficult or too expensive to extract. There may still be billions of barrels underground, but if extracting 1 barrel costs more than selling it, nobody pumps it. In other words, the world is far more likely to stop producing oil because of economics, not because every drop has vanished. So, why doesn't oil ever seem to run out? Because the Earth isn't hiding giant underground lakes, because most oil is never extracted, because technology keeps improving, because new reserves continue to be discovered, and because running out doesn't mean what most people think it means. The real limit may not be how much oil remains beneath our feet, but how much we're willing or able to keep extracting. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't where the oil is, it's how much of it we'll choose to leave behind.